My name is Ashley, and this is my story. I'll admit it, what I did wasn't my proudest moment. But when you're cornered by life, you start doing things you swore you never would. Let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a small town where people stuck to their routines like glue. My mother worked as a waitress, and my father? Well, let's just say I didn't know much about him. I always dreamed of escaping that life, of tasting something richer, shinier, and filled with possibilities. When I moved to the city, I was determined to build a name for myself. But big dreams don't come cheap. I was working at a boutique PR agency, drowning in unpaid overtime and student loans, when I met him, Cole Alistair. Everyone knew the Alistair name. They owned hotels, tech companies, and even a yacht-building empire. Cole, with his razor-sharp suits and disarming smile, was the family's golden boy, destined to inherit it all. We met at an after-party for one of our clients. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I tagged along with a coworker who insisted I loosen up. I stood awkwardly in my thrifted dress, sipping champagne that probably cost more than my rent. That's when I felt someone's gaze. I turned, and there he was. "Enjoying the party?" he asked, his voice smooth, confident. I wasn't used to guys like Cole talking to me. I fumbled out some response, but he didn't seem to mind. We talked about everything: books, travel, the city's hidden spots. By the end of the night, he asked for my number. I thought he was joking. But he wasn't. Dating Cole was like stepping into a fairy tale. Weekend trips to private villas, designer dresses delivered to my doorstep, dinners at places where the waiters knew him by name. But there was one problem: his family. The Alistairs had a reputation for being ruthless, protective of their legacy. His mother, Margaret, was the worst. She had that cold, calculating stare that made you feel like she was peeling away your layers, looking for weaknesses. "You're sweet, Ashley," she said once, during one of their family dinners. "But girls like you don't last long in our world." I smiled, but her words stung. Cole, though, was different, or so I thought. He told me he didn't care about the family politics, that he'd fight for me. And for a while, I believed him. But things started shifting. He became distant, buried in work, dodging my calls. Then, one evening, he dropped the bomb. "Ashley, I don't think this is working," he said. "My family, they'll never accept us. It's better if we end this now." My heart shattered. He didn't even fight for me. I spent weeks moping, replaying our conversations, wondering what I did wrong. But then, something clicked. Why should I let him, or his family, win? Why should I let them discard me like I was nothing? That's when the idea came. It wasn't fully formed at first, just a desperate thought. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I called Cole, told him we needed to talk. When we met, I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I'm pregnant." The color drained from his face. "What? How?" I pretended to be hurt. "Do you really need me to explain how?" He didn't say much after that, just stared at me like I'd just flipped his world upside down, which, to be fair, I had. Let me tell you, faking a pregnancy isn't easy. I Googled everything: symptoms, timelines, doctor visits. I even bought a fake positive pregnancy test online. I knew Cole would ask questions, so I had to stay ahead of him. To my surprise, he stepped up. He wasn't exactly overjoyed, but he was responsible. He told me he'd take care of me, of the baby. But then came the kicker: his family. Margaret invited me over for tea, her smile sharper than ever. "Ashley, dear, congratulations. I assume you'll be stepping away from your job soon? Alistair women don't work." I wanted to throw my tea in her face, but I kept my composure. "I'll do whatever's best for the baby," I said sweetly. It wasn't just Margaret. Cole's older brother, Nathan, started dropping by unannounced, making veiled comments about family loyalty and trust. His sister, Clara, offered to help me find the best prenatal care at a clinic she conveniently controlled. They were testing me, looking for cracks. The closer I got to my due date, the more pressure I felt. Cole started talking about nurseries, nannies, names. I knew I couldn't keep the lie going forever, but I hadn't figured out my exit plan. Then, one night, Cole found the ultrasound photo I'd photoshopped. "This doesn't look right," he said, holding it up. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to sound calm. He stared at me, his eyes narrowing. "Ashely, are you lying to me?" I had two options, confess or double down. I chose the latter. "How dare you accuse me of lying?" I shouted, tears streaming down my face. "I've been carrying your child, dealing with your family's judgment, and this is how you treat me?" It worked. He apologized, saying he was just stressed. But I knew my time was running out. The lie unraveled faster than I expected. Cole's mother hired a private investigator, of course she did. They found inconsistencies, and before I knew it, I was cornered during one of their family gatherings. "Ashely," Margaret said, her voice dripping with faux concern. "Care to explain this?" She slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, records, proof that I wasn't pregnant. I felt the blood drain from my face. Cole looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. I couldn't lie anymore. "Yes," I whispered. The room erupted. Margaret called me a fraud, a gold digger. Clara smirked, looking vindicated. But Cole? He just sat there, silent. I left the house humiliated, my dreams of belonging shattered. Where I am now. It's been a year since that night. I moved back to my small town, away from the city's chaos. I got a job at a local bookstore, where life is quieter, simpler. Do I regret what I did? Sometimes. But part of me feels like the Alistaires got what they deserved. They saw me as nothing, a disposable outsider. I showed them that I wasn't someone to be ignored. As for Cole, he never reached out after that night. I heard he's engaged to someone his family approves of, a polished heiress from an old money family. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he ever thinks about me. If he misses the girl who once turned his world upside down. I'm not proud of my choices, but they're mine. And if nothing else, I learned one thing: in a world where people like the Alistaires rule, you have to fight for your place, or risk being forgotten. I hadn't heard from Cole in over a year. Life had moved on, at least on the surface. I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece, trying not to dwell on everything I'd lost, or what I'd thrown away. One rainy evening, as I was closing up the bookstore, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I answered hesitantly. "Ashely, it's Cole." I froze. His voice hit me like a freight train, stirring up memories I'd tried so hard to bury. "What do you want, Cole?" I asked, trying to sound indifferent. "I need to see you. Please." Every instinct told me to say no, to hang up and move on. But curiosity, or maybe some lingering hope, got the better of me. "Fine," I said. "Tomorrow at noon. There's a cafe near my place." The next day, I sat at the cafe, nervously stirring my coffee. When Cole walked in, he looked different, tired, worn, but still impossibly handsome. "I broke off my engagement," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Good for you," I replied, my tone icy. "Why are you telling me this?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because it wasn't right. She wasn't right. And because I can't stop thinking about you." My heart betrayed me, skipping a beat. "You expect me to just forget everything? The way you left me? The way your family humiliated me?" "I know I hurt you," he said, his voice soft. "But I'm done letting them control my life. I should have fought for you back then. I'm here now, Ashley, and I'm not leaving until you give me another chance. It wasn't easy. I didn't trust Cole, not completely. But he was persistent. He showed up every day, proving he was serious. He apologized, not just with words, but with actions. He took me on long walks, where we talked about everything, our fears, our dreams, our mistakes. He even apologized to my mother, who wasn't shy about telling him off for breaking my heart, and I apologized as well for playing his feelings and trust. Slowly, my walls began to crumble. One evening, as we sat on a park bench watching the sunset, he turned to me and said, "Ashley, I love you. I've always loved you. And I'm not going to let you go again." For the first time in a long time, I believed him. Months later, we were stronger than ever. Cole had cut ties with his family's toxic expectations, focusing on building a life that was ours, not theirs. One weekend, he surprised me with a trip to the countryside. As we walked through a field of wildflowers, he got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. "Ashley, you've taught me what it means to fight for what matters. You're my world, my everything. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I said yes. A few months after the engagement, I started feeling nauseous in the mornings. At first, I thought it was stress, but then the signs became clear. When I told Cole, he lifted me off the ground and spun me around, laughing. "We're going to be parents," he exclaimed. This time, it was real. Planning our wedding while preparing for the baby was chaotic, but we embraced every moment. Cole was attentive, doting, and excited about becoming a father. Our wedding day was nothing short of magical. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, with golden leaves dancing in the breeze as sunlight filtered through the trees. We chose an intimate ceremony at a charming vineyard, surrounded by just our closest friends and family. I walked down the aisle in a lace gown that hugged my growing belly, the gentle curve reminding me of the life we were building together. Cole stood at the altar, tears in his eyes, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. When we said our vows, it felt like the universe had conspired to bring us back together, stronger and more certain than ever. As we kissed, the guests cheered, and I knew in my heart this was the start of our forever. As I sit here, writing this with my growing belly, I can't help but marvel at how far we've come. Life isn't perfect, and we still have challenges ahead. But for the first time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Cole once told me he couldn't stop thinking about me. Now, I can't imagine life without him, and I can't wait for the little one in my belly to arrive. He or she would change our lives and bring so much happiness in our lives, and as for Cole's family, they came around and accepted me and decided to put Cole's decision and feelings first from their status and reputation. Cole proved every day that he was more than the man I first met. He was my partner, my rock, my home. On quiet evenings, we'd sit on the porch of our countryside house, watching the sunset. One night, as we sat hand in hand, as my belly grew bigger, Cole turned to me with that same boyish smile he'd given me years ago. "I told you I wasn't going to let you go," he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "And I told you I wasn't going to make it easy for you," I teased. He laughed, leaning in to kiss me softly. "Worth every second." Looking around at the life we'd built, the love, the family, the home, I knew he was right. This wasn't just a happy ending, it was the beginning of everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. Our days as a couple during my pregnancy were a mix of tender moments and hilariously unexpected adventures. Cole became my rock, indulging every craving and running out at odd hours to find the strangest combinations of snacks. Pickles and peanut butter became a regular in our house. He'd read baby books religiously, sharing random facts like, "Did you know the baby can hear us now?" before launching into conversations with my belly, making me laugh until I cried. On weekends, he'd rub my swollen feet and insist on watching cheesy romantic comedies, claiming they worked for the baby. As my due date approached, he painted the nursery himself, refusing any help because he wanted it to be perfect. Those months were filled with a deeper kind of love, a partnership that felt unshakable, as we prepared for the most beautiful chapter of our lives. Life with Cole felt amazing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. This is our story, a messy, complicated, beautiful story. And it's only just beginning. The end.